everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Rec Poker Podcast. You know you're in for a treat when you hear that music, because it's time to hang out with me, Rob, Kim, Lara. We've got a whole group here today here on the Rec Poker Podcast. If you don't know what Rec Poker is, we're an online community. We're a real-life community. We're a community of folks that love playing poker and learning about poker and railing each other. It's mostly free. Go to rec.poker to sign up now. All it takes is an email address and a smile. I'm your host, Jim Reed, and if you want to learn about me, you can go to rec.poker/crew, where you can learn about me and the rest of the Wrecking Crew. But I'm just one member of the Wrecking Crew that's here. Just like every week, I'm joined by some fun friends to talk poker. One of them, the man himself, Rob Washam. Rob, why don't you tell the group where they can reach you?
I'm Rob Washam, and you can find me as Rabman50 just about everywhere. Poker Stars, ACR, email, or Rob at Rec Poker if you want to contact me through the Rec Poker site. I just want to say that I'm jealous and I'm looking forward to everybody that can play in the main event this year. I hope everybody has good luck. And then the most important thing is to have a lot of fun.
You said it, Rob. I know I had a lot of fun when I was down there in Las Vegas, not playing in the main event, but it's hard to have a bad time when you're hanging out with these kind of great people all the time. We're going to be joined by Kim Kilroy as well, Pet Vet, shortly. And speaking of things that are happening shortly, before we start the interview, I just want to tease, we're doing one more Rec Poker road trip with Run Good coming up. By the time you hear this episode, you'll be able to catch up with us in Council Bluffs, Iowa, from November 11th to November 14th. A few listeners will be no stranger to that series down there and that destination. That's going to be a lot of fun. And the only other thing I want to tell people is if you're enjoying this audio, it's a lot more fun to do the video version of the podcast. And when we do our forums editions, you also get a chance to see a lot more information about what's being talked about with the group. And so that's all free. If you go to YouTube and search for the Rec Poker community, please do subscribe there and you'll get an update. We put out a lot of free videos every week, and it's a great way to learn along and get involved in the community. So speaking of learning along and getting involved in the community, I'm happy to introduce Lara Eisenberg, who's a recent bracelet winner in the 2021 WSOP. And that's just a small piece of what makes her story interesting. So why don't we just get started right here? Welcome, Lara, to the show. Thanks for coming.
Thanks so much, Jim. I appreciate being here.
Now, you have a kind of a colorful history. You've been involved in a bunch of interesting aspects of your life, your medical training, some of your leisure activities that some people may or may not know about, your skydiving experience. This isn't also your first time being victorious in the poker arena. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about kind of what's brought you to this point now that you're a bracelet winner at the top of the mountain, looking back and kind of see, so like what got you interested and what helped you get to where you are here today?
Sure. So I've always had a competitive streak, and as a kid, I was just not somebody who was like athletic. So I was never really involved in sports or things like that. And it wasn't until I got to college I started playing pool, actually. And so I was first a competitive billiards player, and I got a couple of national third places when I was in college. And so that was really fun. And then got busy with medical school. And somewhere along the way, I always knew I was going to start skydiving. And I started skydiving when I was a resident. And so I know Eric Jin, who I guess goes by Binkley with you guys, through skydiving. And I was never on his level of skydiving, but I did compete a lot in 4-way and 8-way, and did some large formation skydiving things too. We have the current 400-way is the world record largest formation that we did back in 2006.
Let's just talk about that for 1 second. So just let's not gloss over that. So that's a 400-person formation. Yep. Is that right? So you're skydiving with 399 other people, and you have to. So I guess you have to jump from higher. You have to obviously get into formation, hold the formation, and then break off so you can shoot down safely. What goes into
Right.
that? What's that?
Yeah, the hardest thing about these large formations isn't really the skill of any individual person. You can't be a novice, and you have to have experience and know what you're doing. But the real difficulty in the things is all the logistics of a country who's willing to let you do it, who's willing to give you C-130 planes or equivalent, so you can put tons of people in them, and crew to go with it. Because no skydivers, we couldn't each pay our individual portion of what it cost for us to be there, honestly. But we did that event, because they were, the people who organized it had done other large formations there before, and were kind of in with the government and the royalty of Thailand. And we did it as part of the Royal Sky Celebration, which was the 50th anniversary of the king's ascendancy to the throne. So he graciously said, here's 5 C-130s. Here's the crew that goes with them. It takes 5 people to fly each one, and each one can fly 1 mission per day. And we would do like 5 jumps a day. So we had 100 and some military people at our, doing skydiving things, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. And we were there for 3 weeks to do it. And so it takes a tremendous, if you need 400 people, you have to have 5.
Right.
Because there's going to be injuries, sicknesses, family emergencies, and you have to have video people, all the crew in the ground, and the logistics of doing the hotel. I mean, it's just everything, is just astonishing. So it was pretty lucky that we pulled it off.
Well, I like your approach. Find a member of royalty who has something to celebrate, and
Right.
get aligned with that. That seems like a good way to get something like that done.
Yeah, the U.S. government doesn't take too kindly to people wanting to just go screw around with their C-130s too much. So,
I've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Even here from Canada, I've heard that about the U.S. government. That's
Pretty
interesting.
much.
Yeah.
But,
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And they had, so we had 5 C-130s flying information with 80 skydivers for the formation in each. And just flying C-130s information is a big deal, of stuff that they're not doing all the time. There's not a reason to usually. So just
right.
every piece of it was something, different.
And as an individual taking part in that, what kind of what qualifies you to do something like that? And then B, how do you practice or prepare for that individually and as a team?
Sure. So, it used to be a thing that everybody was setting state records, so I was, we did a 50-way North Carolina state record, and then you break it by doing 55. And so there were all these things where you had a chance to practice, the skills that you need, which mostly is jumping out of a plane and being able to dive down at a formation that's forming. And, you're catching up, you're going at 200 miles an hour, catching up to something that's going 120 miles an hour. And you have to be able to know when to slow down and to be able to fly, and dock and do the things that you need to do. Some of the things that, like the kind of stuff that Eric did, takes quite a bit more skill, in my opinion. To do the high level competition skydiving is much more difficult. But it takes practice, and you have to be able to, so you hopefully find people that are doing 50 or 100-way formations where you can gain those skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just it's a small group of people that were doing those things. Relatively small, but then people know who's done what and who has the skills to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, Eric Jin, who goes by Binkley around here, he's a humble guy. He doesn't like to toot his own horn. But since you're on the show here and he's not, can you just talk a little bit about sort of how you know him and what he does differently in the air and why you think that's so interesting or cool?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Eric was part of, basically one of the best skydiving teams, period. I competed in 4-way and 8-way competitions as well, which are 4 man or woman teams and 8-person teams. And you're doing different things, kind of smaller formations. It's hard to describe, in an audio format, but, it's very physical. You're doing, complex kind of skydiving moves in a very constrained time frame. You have like 35 seconds, for example, doing a 4-way competition. And then people like doing what Eric did are doing this as a full-time, job, and they're sponsored team and are, making tons of jumps a year and just performing at an amazingly high level. So that's who we always looked up to as Arizona Airspeed, the team that he was with, and these guys that, that are just, and the Golden Knights Army parachute team is, another, and there are several others that around the time that I was jumping, those were the idols that we looked up to, of the people that are just amazing. And just really, putting it together on all fronts.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Eric's really taken a leadership role here at Rec Poker too. He runs a weekly study event, the Play, Explain, and Learn, where everyone can play in a simulated cash game and talk about their action afterwards and record their thoughts. That's really cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he's at the front of a lot of those things that he enjoys doing. That's so. Speaking of which, so I don't know if you want to transition into some of your other professional accomplishments, but speaking of being at the forefront, so you're a radiologist, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
And that's kind of an interesting. I know you've talked before about how it kind of gives you some time to work on things like poker, but it also keeps you very focused and stimulated at work. What brought you into that path, and how did you manage to combine serious skydiving along with that medical training and occupation?
Sure. Yeah. So I wanted to be a doctor from the time I was a little kid. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do within medicine. I started out in surgery actually, and then switched to radiology. And, and I like radiology a lot. My prior job, it's only recently in the last few years that I've had a job where I work every other week from home. And before that, I was working in a hospital. I was the chair of the department and ran meetings and did lots of, kind of administrative stuff. So I didn't, I still had decent time off, but not quite as much as now. And so radiology is great because you have a lot of flexibility. You can be reading MRIs and CAT scans, from anywhere in the US, basically. You can't do it overseas. But, so that gives you a lot of, options of how you want to work. And so I was working at home before the pandemic started and continue to do so during the pandemic. And the only downside of working 7 on, 7 off is that you're doing something every other weekend too. So a lot of live poker stuff happens on weekends. So that's, that makes it harder when you want to be able to spend time, with, I want to spend time with my wife and friends and do things like that. And that stuff all happens on weekends, so that stuff's always a negotiation. But I like my job a lot. And, things that, I think anything that if you can make it through medical school, you have the discipline to be able to buckle down and do the work.
Yes.
And I think as far as translating that to whether it's skydiving or poker or whatever it is, any endeavor that you want to try to get to a reasonably high level at some point requires you to roll up your sleeves and do some of the stuff that's not so much fun. Most people don't go, yes, it's time to study ICM sims. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. It's so exciting. But, when you want to get an edge, those are the kind of things that you're, looking at. And skydiving had its equivalent as well, where there's just some stuff that it's not fun to just go do drills over and over. But that's where the really peak performance comes from.
Yeah, I mean, here we're a lot of recreational players, and so I think it's easy for us to find areas to make big gains because there's just large steps available to us. But once you become a more serious, more strategic, more advanced player, the edges available to you get smaller and smaller. So you have to work harder for them. You have to, look harder just to find where to explore. Sometimes you need some help just to shine a light on that kind of thing. So the better you get, the harder it is to improve or to make great strides. So that's probably true of every career or interest out there.
Yeah, I agree 100%. But I mean, still there's so much that I can learn and improve on. And, I'm certainly myself not at a point where it's I can't think of what I'll study next or what I could learn. It's there's so much, but that's what's great. It's not like even the people, we go over, video footage of people playing the super high rollers and stuff. People are just butchering stuff left and right, and making mistakes because we're all humans and none of us are solvers, and the solvers are super complicated, and the solvers are playing solvers, and we're playing random people that are doing weird stuff too, and so it doesn't translate exactly either. So, that's part of but we'll keep it forever very much a live game, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I like that. I think so too. Rob?
One of the things we always like to ask our guests is, what got you interested in poker to begin with? How did your poker journey start? We've heard about your skydiving and your radiology, your medical training. Somewhere in there, poker became part of your life. So how did that happen?
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of funny because I was always like, as computer games started to come out, like, and there was like the, Commodore 64 and the Apple IIe, and like I'm old enough to have seen like the whole thing, and every step as we could do like more computer games, I was like on it, from like the earliest like D&D type games to first person shooters to Zork, in the very beginning, like, all of it, and so
I just lost your audio there for a second.
So
Oh, now you're back, I think.
yeah, that headphone just is having a problem.
Oh, well, that's okay. Take your time and get set. We'll talk a little bit more about Zork when Lara gets back to us. Yeah, perfect.
So yeah, so I had, like a fancy gaming computer, and I was literally like watching the news after dinner one night, and a commercial came on and it was like, oh, play poker on the internet. I was like, what? I was like, you can play poker for money on the internet? Like that's allowed? That's legal? And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, I don't know how to play poker at all. I literally, like, I didn't know what beats what. I didn't know anything about poker. But I was like, I'm not going to sit here and play a game for free in my basement. Like, if I can play a game where you could possibly win money playing the game, I'm going to learn how to play that game. So like, there has to be books about poker, right? And so I was like, what are the books? So like I just like searched and was like, okay, Dan Harrington, that's a guy that wrote books, and like the Mason Malmuth books, right? And so, Harrington on Hold, just got like those books, which weren't that many at the time, and read those, started playing on like Paradise Poker and Party Poker, whatever, those like the ones that were there at the time. It was all like Limit Poker was the big thing. I'm playing that. I had no idea what I was doing, but just like starting to learn that stuff. And then there were, slowly like more and more books were coming out, and then eventually there were sites coming out, and we'd started taking trips up to Atlantic City and playing live up there. And that was so much fun. And then somewhere along the way, like I was up at some casino in Atlantic City, and they're like, I was like, I want to get on the list for, 3-6 no limit or something. And they're like, no, well, we have like a really long list, but there's a 1-2 no limit open. I'm like, I don't know how to play no limit. They're like, oh, it's about the same. I was like, all right, well, I'll sit there for a little bit. And I was like, whoa, this is really different. This seems like more fun too, And then somebody invited me to a charity tournament. You're like, whoa, tournaments are even better. Like it's a story. It has a beginning and a middle and an end. Like they really like that. And so I started playing a bunch of charity tournaments around DC, and then just kept, as websites became available, started like learning on, different websites. And WPT Bootcamp was a thing. So I did a couple of those, and started learning with like Nick Binger and Brancato. Yep, we have another one there. And that was great, And so that kind of gave you a framework where you could kind of hold your own and, not suck horribly. I felt like you could, reasonably, play and have some understanding as our understanding was at the time. And then it's, from there, it was just following new websites as they, became available, reading books by Jonathan Little and, other people as they came out, and going from there. And eventually, getting to the point, where I am now, like Alex Fitzgerald stuff, that was, I did some coaching with him. And then, then it was Rob Tinian, was like, he's going to be putting this site together. And he's like, and you're not going to believe who's going to, be the coach. It's going to be this big surprise. And then it turned out to be Ape Styles.
Right.
So I was the first person to sign up. I was like, you get a discount if you sign up early. I'm like, I'll be number one and sign up for that. For sure. And when we started, we had like a handful of people. So there'd be like 5 of us in a webinar with him, and, as it was getting going. And so, do database reviews and, all this stuff. And, so for a couple of years, 3 years, I think it's, Elevate was this subgroup of just the more dedicated, people studying, with him as the main coach, and then Vlada and we had a couple of other people. It was phenomenal. And that really took my game to a higher level in doing that. And then when Elevate kind of fell apart, then Ape Styles was going to transfer over and become part of BBZ. So we all moved over to BBZ. And that's where I've been since last October. So it's been a year of being there. And that's, the coaching there is amazing, because, we have 5, 6, 7, 8 webinars a week. And just for tournaments, they have other cash webinars, but I can't keep you have to like draw the line at like what you can reasonably keep up with. It's hard enough to keep up with 8 things,
Yeah.
but they're just like amazingly high level stuff. Like John, Ape Styles does a lot of like database reviews, and then other like high level, looking into things. Yargo does ICM work, and then the other John will do a lot of simple 3-way work. So it's a lot of sims and and evaluating very specific spots and things. But that just really was another big jump up. So.
Just see we're getting joined here by the one and only John Somsky, so I'm going to promote John to a panelist while we get into it here. Speaking of community and learning together, John is the director of our online home games program here. We do 10 home games a week, just free play money home games where people can practice and play against each other and practice different moves and that kind of thing. You're obviously, just like we are, you're a proponent of learning together and finding people to study with. Can you just talk a little bit about, because Ape Styles, his name is gold in the poker world. And I remember I was a podcast guy. I would just listen to podcasts all the time. And I remember when Assassinato on the One Outer was talking about getting on with Ape Styles and all the stuff that he was doing at the edge of the curve there. And just having people to, like having some people to look up to, but also some people just to disagree with, and some people just to share ideas with. Can you just talk a little bit about what has been the most helpful aspect of joining a group like that, or how that's helped you learn?
Yeah, absolutely. So like with BBZ, I mean, there's a lot, like I don't have the time to take advantage of everything that is part of that community. Because the Discord's very active with a lot of people posting hands and talking about hands and stuff like that, and I have to kind of decide, like, with the time that I have available, like, what can I reasonably do? And keeping up with the webinars is my first priority. But you do, like, the times when I can be on the webinars, they're 10 a.m. my time. And when I work till 11. So I can't be on at all that week. So I try to be on when I'm off, when I can. If I'm going away, then I miss those too. But when you can be involved in the webinar, then there's a lot of back and forth, and also just a lot of one-on-one interaction with the coaches. But you get to know the people that are in the group as well. And so, like, a couple of my closest friends are people from Elevate, where we had a lot of interaction. We were all on the webinar kind of live together because the group was small. And what was amazing about that was the day of the final table of 5 for the women's event. I had, one good friend who's an amazing player who's really moved up the ranks, who plays full time, George. And, George was, he was like, he was very excited that I had made the final table. And he's like, I could run Sims for you overnight. And I'm like, that would be amazing. And so he ran like 5 different final table Sims for me overnight. And we spent 90 minutes that morning going over these Sims and, like, what should opening ranges, how should this change? And, like, in all these different scenarios that could come up, and just, and none of them exactly are going to come up, but just having your mind kind of primed as to, what the 20 big blind stack should be doing when the big stack's in the, on the big blind, and, all these different things. And then a different friend, Patrick, who was great, and just, he kind of helped me kind of go through and just like, let's just make up a first round of the table thing, like a football game plan, right? Where it's like, okay, this is going to be this for sure. This is going to be the situation, the first hand you're dealt. We know you're going to be in the, the small blind or the big blind or whatever. And let's just go through those things and talk about all the different scenarios that could occur. What are you willing to get all in with? What are you willing to 3-bet shove? I had 24 big blinds going into the final table. And just talking about that after doing those Sims too was amazing. So, like, when you have friends like that, you're not just like resting and meditating, like, you're really getting prepared. And that's an enormous advantage, so.
Yeah, and I think the more of that stuff, we're all recreational players here, and so we only have so much time to play or study with real jobs and everything else that goes on in 100%. Our lives. But I really do feel like the more of that kind of stuff you can prepare in advance, the more you can internalize it, so that when you're at the table, you've already thought about it. You're able to unlock your brain to work on other things and to feel comfortable in there. I think that for players like me, anyway, I find that really comforting.
100%. Yeah. And I think, when you're somebody who has a full-time job, I'm not a full-time poker player by any means. But, like, at whatever level you are, you can, like, one of the things that I kind of disagree with is this sort of thing about, like, oh, if you're going to watch a poker video, you need to be taking notes and 100% focus on the video and et cetera. And it's like, yeah, that's ideal. but like we all have real lives. And like, what if in order for me to be able to get through the material that I want to get through, sometimes it's with me walking around with my laptop while I'm brushing my teeth, and while I'm waiting for the coffee to get ready. And, like where can I work it in, and making, every minute that I can count towards trying to get through the things that I want to get through, and if you're somebody who just doesn't have a lot of time, it's hard to sometimes, like I find it hard to find time to play a full online tournament day, like that's a whole day dedicated to just that. But you can sit and play a couple of sit and goes, and get through a lot of the same experience, in a sit and go format. I think it's hugely valuable, and I find, that, just trying to be creative and get what you can out of the time and the, job and the rest of the real life that like most of us have, is the way to get ahead. Yeah.
And speaking of the final table, we got a message, I don't know if it was on Discord, from Eric Jin telling us that, hey, my friend Laura is going to be on the final table. So I thought, oh, cool. I'll have to watch that. So I fired it up. And so I watched most of that final table. And you seem very cool, calm, and collected the whole time. Now you're on a feature table and you got the cameras, you got all the action is being dictated by, the dealer I know has a little microphone like this, so he's talking whenever there's a big decision. So then there's a pause and everybody has to get in the right position, and the commentators have to do what I've been there once, and people always ask me, how did it feel? So I'm going to ask you, how did it feel?
Yeah, to me, honestly, I didn't even know that it was going to be a feature table thing until like somewhere in the day before, like while we were, playing down to the final nine, people were like, da, 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 and it's going to be the televised, whatever streamed final table. I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even know that it was going to be a thing. And my whole attitude going to this Vegas trip was that my next bucket list thing was going to be to try to final table a major tournament. I had a circuit ring from Iowa, where you guys are talking about, which is now, a warm place in my heart for Iowa. But, but I wanted to make the final table of a WPT or a WSOP major event kind of thing. And so I felt like I'd already done what I came to do, and, especially in getting down to the 5 and like getting to be in a stream thing. I was like, I'm coming in as the shortest stack on the table. And, in a way, it's like the pressure's off. Because like, if you come out in 5th place, well, you came in 5th place. So like nothing really particularly lost. And any laddering up that you do is great, and that's gravy, and that's on top of what to me was already a successful thing. So I really didn't put pressure on myself to have any outcome in particular on the tournament, which I think helped. But then as far as it was the first time I'd been playing poker, with cameras and all the rest of the stuff, and I kind of just didn't want to do something completely stupid in the first like 30 minutes. Like that was kind of the main thing. It's like if I make it 30 minutes without doing something I'm going to be horrifically embarrassed by on the stream, then I feel like, all right, then I can kind of screw up at that point. And it was amazing because the very first hand, if you saw the stream, it folds to me on the button, and I have pocket 8s, and I raise off 24 big blinds, and JJ Lou like 3-bets me, like not even quite 3x my raise from the small blind, and I tanked for a while and eventually folded. She had pocket aces, as it turned out. But as it's one of the things that did cross my mind as I'm sitting there is like, am I really going to go out on the first hand? And is this going to look extraordinarily dumb? Whatever I do, whether I fold or I don't fold. Eventually, I just decided that I didn't think she would do that with anything worse than 8s. So I folded, and turned out to be correct. But she could have done it with ace queen or whatever. So it's hard to know. But once 30 minutes had gone by, which goes by quickly, as you, I suppose, know, then I was like, all right, I don't think I've done anything horribly embarrassing. And then just kind of relax. And you start forgetting about the fact that you're even like mic'd yourself, So, there's a couple of times there were just, the woman next to me and I are like chatting about something and just talking, during an idle moment. And you're just like, oh yeah, that's right, we're mic'd. People can hear that you're talking and you just forget about it. So, but, it was fun. And, the dealers are great. And it was, just kind of a hoot to be there and just to be in the situation, like no matter what was going to come out of it, that was just kind of a trip.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way I felt about it. Everybody asked me, "Weren't you nervous, or weren't you?" And I said, "Well, not really, because I was concentrating so much on, like you said, on not doing something stupid, and by playing good poker and concentrating on what was going on at the table, to really that other stuff that is all external and you don't even realize it's there." So, you did a great job. I was
Thank you.
I was. It was a lot of fun watching that table and watching the
Thanks.
dynamics go down. It was great.
Yeah, I was really trying to just focus a lot on just paying intense, like focus, just be intensely focused on the action too. I had made, because I'd been playing online so much, I had made like a couple of day or the day before, I think, a couple of just like live action screw ups, where like, you have like a large chip stuck to something else, or,
Oh, yes.
we had a thing where like somebody was like screaming and doing something like crazy in the middle of a hand. And I ended up like 4Xing it, like my open instead of min raising my open, and then that other woman who was distracted by the screaming didn't see my open. So she like min raises herself and they're like, no, there's a 4X. And she's like, a 4X? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I have to call. And like, we end up in this like ridiculous hand, which I, end up like losing a whole bunch of chips over, and it's like all avoidable. So I was like, I don't want to make any just like stupid, like live poker gaffes, and so that was part of it. And then also I just think people do give away information live that you don't get to see online. And so just to try to pick up on any of that, and also just to see how differently people were going to play. Were people going to play differently under the cameras than they were the day before? And are they tighter? And, are they paying attention to ICM? Or are they not? Like, there's so much to really focus on.
Mm. Well, we did kind of bury the lead off the beginning. Yes, this is the first place finalist, the winner of the ladies event here this year, and that must have just been quite an experience to go through. And it's comforting to hear about the live gaffes, because I saw a lot of that when I was down there, and I did a couple of those when I was playing in a couple events. And it is I don't know about you. I beat myself up over that kind of stuff, like those unforced errors, like that. Is like that's hard to it's hard to get away from. But you need to just forget it and move on, right? And have that winning mindset into the next hand. So I know you've got to get up early with your schedule. Leave us with like what's next for you now? You've crossed this item off the bucket list. You've got you've accomplished so much in all these different areas of your life. What do you kind of aspire to next? And how can folks at Rec Poker Nation follow along with you on your journey? Where can they find you and find out more about you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, for poker, it's like, I really don't set goals around outcome things, and so like making the final table thing was really just like a bucket list thing and not an actual goal, but obviously I'd love to make a final table of something, major again, or I'd love to win another bracelet, but those things are just very much bucket list, kind of things. I'll be back out. I fly out to Vegas on Saturday for the main event, and I'm entering on Sunday. So, we'll see how that goes. But, for poker, it's just going to be, from this point, more of the same, of studying and whatnot. I'll probably retire from radiology in a couple of years. And then I'll have more time to focus on poker, but also just travel and, loving life and enjoying life. And, I have lots of other things that I like to do. But, poker is going to definitely stay a big part of my life for quite some time. So I'm on Twitter periodically. I'm at Eisen009. I can't say that I'm like super connected on Facebook or Twitter. It's like usually like, okay, making a deep run. So I'll be on Facebook or Twitter, but it's like, I don't bore people with like, I'm at the end of day one, and it's like, most of the time you're just going to like bust out somewhere in the middle. So I'm on sporadically, but that's, if people want to reach me, I do a little bit of coaching, but Eisen009 on Twitter is how people can reach me, probably the easiest.
Right on. Well, I'm sure you'll get a few followers that enjoyed listening to you on the show today. and I hope you get a chance to come back. I'd love to talk more about billiards with you. I know Kim, who came a little late, she's also a retired medical professional who loves traveling around playing poker. So I think we've got a lot of things we could talk about together. Yes, I think so. Well, Lara, we're going to start we'll run our ad for Jonathan Little shortly, and you're welcome to stick around afterwards, but all we're going to do is talk about who won the home games and what Rob's getting up into the book study. So
this is really fun.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope it's not for the last time. And I look forward to seeing how these other bucket list items work out for you. So congratulations again. Way to go.
Appreciate being part of this great group. Thank you.
All right. See you again soon.
Have you ever wondered whether you should call a preflop raise or 3-bet instead? What do you do when you have a flush draw? Do you raise it or do you just call? What do you do with ace-king when you miss the flop? Are you tired of guessing about what the right play is with your particular hand? Well, my name is Jonathan Little, and I am a 2-time World Poker Tour champion and creator of PokerCoaching.com, where we offer over 1,000 interactive hand quizzes where you play a hand and then get real-time feedback from our world-class pros. Don't guess and don't stress. Just register for your free account at PokerCoaching.com/recpoker right now.
Thank you, Jonathan Little, for all your support over the years. Jonathan Little, if you go to PokerCoaching.com/recpoker, you can get a money-back guarantee from Jonathan. Go try it out, see if you enjoy it. And if you don't, just take care, and he'll send you that money back. But we hope that you do go and give him a try. He really knows what he's talking about, and he's been a good friend of the show here at Rec Poker. So that's the end of Lara. That was a wonderful interview. It was great getting to know her a little better. Rob, Kim, John, any thoughts on her journey or where we might see her next before we get into the community half of the show?
Maybe we'll see her next on the empowerment group.
That's a great idea, Kim. Yeah, I love that idea. I'd like to talk to her more
about women-focused poker experience. So, yeah. So
nice.
Maybe we'll do that.
Well, we can find her on Twitter.
Yeah, the other day I saw a tweet where somebody predicted that there would be a woman at the final table of the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Laura would be a great candidate for that.
Yeah, me too.
She seems to be very, very, I believe she said she's playing it. So, right. And she said she'd be happy to volunteer to be that person.
Yes, we have it on good authority that she's down.
Yes, and I think she's focused and definitely an accomplished enough player that she could definitely be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Well, we're overdue. And it's a big part of our mission here is to make the poker world more inclusive, to make people that feel uncomfortable feel more comfortable, whether that's women or men or anyone else. And so I think it would be great to get some more woman faces at the final table and winning more of these bracelets, just to go out there and be that positive role model for all these aspiring players.
Yeah, I think that could definitely be a thing. I remember when I had my deep runs, they all came sort of close together within a 6-month period. So maybe this is the year of Lara at the WSOP.
There you go. I bet she likes that idea too. All right, fantastic. Well, that was a good one. I hope we get a chance to have her back on again. And yeah, Kim, I think you're right. I think she'd be a great candidate for your monthly empowerment conversation. So maybe we can put you in touch after the show.
Got the info already.
Yeah, there you go. You're all locked in. So let me see what else is going on in Memberland. I should say, I'll say again, we've got the Iowa Council Bluffs trip coming up November 11th to 14th. And then in December, we're going to be heading down to Thunder Valley as part of the WPT event down there that our friend Brian Raven won free entry into through our Club WPT collaboration. So I'm excited to see that coming up. If folks are interested, go to rec.poker/road trips, and you can find out all the details on that and more things that are coming up. Kim, I did put a
little post in the travel forum as well.
Oh, great.
About seeing if there was anybody interested who's planning on going, if there's anybody trying to get, houses together or roommates or whatever. I haven't heard anything back yet, but it's in there.
Nice.
So, because I didn't see anything yet in the road trip section about it.
Yeah, I think because Steve and I are still getting back from Vegas and getting organized, I think it's just we are not quite as on top of things. John and Rob can attest to to that. We're still figuring out a couple things here, but yeah, I know Steve's planning on going. I think he's getting a hotel room. I don't know if we're going to do a rec poker house for this one or if we'll just kind of travel down and visit while we're down there. But that'll be great. And I love that you're taking on that travel group in the forums there, because I've seen people sharing ideas about travel dates and how to get rooms together and that kind of thing. So I can tell that's going to, as live poker opens up, that's just going to get more and more exciting.
I happen to have November 11th to 15th free on my calendar.
Uh-oh. So you're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it.
You're going to go find another Walgreens parking lot and do a testing swab across the border again. You and I had to. They make us jump through all these hoops coming down from Canada. But when the action's good, what can you do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm going to make it down to this one, unfortunately. But I am just jonesing for some more fun live poker since on my trip to Vegas. So it's not easy to find here in Southern Ontario. I'm going to have to go somewhere to get it, but it's happening soon, I think, somehow. What else is going on? Rob, you want to take us through, I know you guys just finished chapter 9, I think. Is that right? In Michael Acevedo's Modern Poker Theory?
The first and third Wednesdays of each month, we get together at 6:30 Central Time, and we talk about Modern Poker Theory by Michael Acevedo. That's the book we're consuming right now. We've been through all of we're in the MTT section. We've been through all of the pre-flop stuff, so now we're going to get into the post-flop stuff. So we're going to talk about c-betting, bet sizings, things like that. So pretty... it's getting down and dirty now, so we're going to be. I think we're going to be going much quicker now too. I mean, there was a lot of content in the pre-flop, and now that we're getting into the post-flop, I think it seems to be a little more. It'll flow a little quicker now than it had, as not as much detail. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. You guys were really building a foundation in the first several chapters, and now you get to kind of just execute and operate within that framework. Well, that makes sense.
And if you think about it, you are involved in every single hand pre-flop, but you're not involved in every single hand post-flop. So there's a lot more decision-making pre-flop than there is post. I mean, just to get involved in the hand. So there's a lot more nuances in deciding when to get involved and how to get involved, limp, raise, 3-bet, 4-bet, whatever. So,
yeah, good point. Well, it is the Modern Poker Bible, so I'm excited to keep seeing how that comes along. It's the kind of book that you definitely want to take on with a friend. So I'm glad you're leading the group. And I've got some other exciting news. I think I'm breaking this. Gareth James from the MTT Poker Academy is going to be taking a bigger role with Rec Poker going forward. We're going to get a chance to meet up with Gareth once a month for some of our premium members to review some strategy material of his. We're going to be, well, I won't go too into the details, but if you're a Gareth James fan, and you should be, he's a great guy, great coach, and really excellent at working with recreational players. I think you'll get to know him even better over the next little while. So that's something new that's coming. And here, John, I guess, why don't you take us through, we did the marathon last week of all the new winners in the home game since we were taking our Las Vegas trip. But now we're back with just a normal week of just 10 plus games for you to recap.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to be out of town last time while the catch up was happening because there were just way too many names to go over with. And people would have been sick of my voice. Now they're just sick of yours. Much better situation.
Well, they're definitely sick of mine by now.
All right. For the nightly events, we have Night Owl. Chris Ruhm got his fourth nightly victory for the year. Nice. Milo Junk, Miles Hudson also got his fourth for the year.
Nice.
Jay Setem.
We got him, guys. We got him.
Okay. Jay Setem. Jeff S. got his first nightly victory for the year.
And we've got a couple Jeff S's now. So, Rec Poker is growing enough that it's going to take more than a name and an initial to claim your spot here. Congratulations.
Yeah. Maybe it's J.S. Edom.
Ooh, yeah. Now we're talking.
J.S. Edom.
We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, J.S., isn't that his initials, J.S.?
Yep.
So it's J.S. Edom.
Nailed it.
All right. Wolfman 109, Adam Wolf got his fifth nightly victory.
Awesome. Nice.
Gray 371, Thomas Pena also got his fifth victory.
Way to go, Trey.
The Nice Aces, Denise Allen, got her second nightly victory for the year.
Nice. She's a fun follow on Twitter, too.
And then Aces 54320, Kathy Chang got her first mixed practice victory for the year.
No surprise. She's a beast in the mixed games. I think some of our members got a chance to meet up with her down in Vegas while Steve was down there. Kathy, if you're listening, thanks for the fun time and congratulations on your mixed game victory. Then
Keck Geek 65 got his third international victory for the year. And I believe that is his 18th out of his 20 victory goal for the year. Throughout all of the series.
I mean, we all thought he was crazy in January. He called his shot. He said, my goal is to win 20 Rec Poker home games this year. And we were like, oh, Jacob. Oh, the kids these days. But no, he's showing us, man. That is his 18th victory. And it's November 1st. He's got 2 months to go. So, Jacob, I'll tell you, my favorite number is 22. And so I'm just saying 20 sounds good, but 22, that's really going to lock up the Rec Poker performance of the year. So congratulations to Jacob for what he's doing. We might have to have him on the show one of these days and share the love. Find out what's he doing? How is he doing it? How is he crushing this field so consistently? Well done.
Actually, I think he should go to 32 because, being a computer programmer, squares of two,
I think that would be more fair. I think you're right. Yeah, good point. Good point.
18 is an excellent record, and 20 is going to be. I have no doubt that he will make it.
Me too.
Then we had Jasper Jr., Patrick Barry.
Yeah, Pat
got his fourth international victory for the year.
Nice.
And then J.S. Edom, Jeff S. also
He's back.
Won the daily LPP
He's back.
victory. So you can contact Jim at rec.poker for your free month subscription to Learn Pro Poker.
Thanks, John. Yeah, Jeff, send me an email, jim@rec.poker, and we'll get you all set up. You'll love all of the learning materials available with Ryan the Plant and Learn Pro Poker. And anyone else, if, I think it's $35 or $40 a month to join LPP, and it is good value. You can go to rec.poker/resources and find a link that gets you a little discount there. But if anyone who plays in our Sunday tournaments, which are free, if you win it, we're going to give you a free month at LPP. So all you got to do, show up on Sunday, win the home game, get a free month at LPP, and then go on and bink a bracelet like our friend Lara. It's that easy. So what else do we have coming up? It's going to be the Heads Up event in December. Is that correct? The third Saturday, John?
The third Saturday, December 18th, will be our final Heads Up victory for the year. And this will be the third and final Rec Poker member who will get automatically entered into Marek Madness.
Marek Madness. It'll be here before we know it. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Bragging rights, another shot at a pin. And ultimately, what it really is about is just getting better at heads up play. So when you are there neck and neck with someone else and you don't want to chop it for the bracelet, you can go in with the killer instinct and the practice and the experience and knock them dead. So yeah, come along and sign up for that one. December 18th. Give yourself a little early Christmas present. Well, I think that's it on my list. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to add before we roll on out of here? Seeing none, I would really like to thank Martha and Jim and Kim and John and Rob and Lara and everyone else, Eric, who was hanging around in the chat here as well for a while. Website AMP and Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. And of course, you, the listeners. Thank you so much. See you soon.